Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Saturday Show. My name's Riha Notion and I'm back this season. I say season, it feels like a season. I wasn't here during December. Obviously everyone knows I went to Bangladesh. And now I'm back after Ramadan. I'm like, wow, it's been a very long time since I've been on this sofa. I think it feels like a new sofa. Not sure if they've been replaced it. But how's everyone been? I hope everyone's been well. And of course you've enjoyed Eid and we've got this 4-day weekend, which is amazing. But yeah, exciting times because I think for this season we've got so much to talk about. Obviously I've got so many stories to share, I've got so many stories to hear, and inshallah I guess that is the first part of this show because obviously, you know, we have an amazing guest with us as always, and I want to introduce Taslima Sheikh. Of course, I will say a little bit about you and then I'm going to ask you questions, of course. She's a job coach, she's a founder of Shajara Pathways, and she's a graduate in philosophy and theology from the University of Oxford. Now, I can go on and on about the things that she does every day, but let's hear from her. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm very good. Okay, so let's talk a bit about your background, of course. So I understand you studied philosophy and theology at the University of Oxford, which is a big name, of course. So tell me, why did you choose that subject?
So initially, I actually applied to study classics at Oxford. And I think what drew me to classics was my love of languages, but also dialogue. And so fast forward 2 years in, I ended up switching course to philosophy and theology. And what drew me to that subject was everything I loved from classics.
Right.
But I felt as if I could resonate with it much more because I was able to learn Islamic philosophy.
Nice.
I was able to take Islam papers, and it was something that I could actually care about. Whereas I gradually fell out of love with classics. I think I'm a big person on decolonising the curriculum.
Okay.
And Oxford is very traditional, and those papers no longer satisfied the thirst for knowledge I was looking for.
Mm-hmm. Fine. And obviously, I mean, this might be a very silly question. Why did you choose the University of Oxford?
No, it's not a silly question. And to be honest, when people ask me this, I think they're waiting for one big light bulb moment, which inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, Friha, I would say that there was no one big defining moment, but it was an idea that I gradually worked towards over time. So I'm one of 4 daughters, and so when my older sister applied for university, I naturally thought what I would do in her position, where I would apply for. And I think growing up, I enjoyed and excelled in my studies, and so I wanted to apply to the top university. And so I decided to put my mind to it with the advice and permission of my parents. I went for it. So I think Oxford for me was an aim and a goal I was working towards from a young age. And to be honest with you, compared to a lot of applicants, I think I actually began my application journey rather late. So you have...
How late would you say?
So when I say late, you have like private school students applying or at least preparing to apply as early as year 7, whereas I only thought about this in year 11.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I honestly felt as if I was behind a lot of my peers, but I think I held back for the right reasons because I was applying with passion and potential, not for the name of Oxbridge. So I think that's why I decided to go for Oxford.
Okay, amazing. And again, this might be a bit off topic. So did you live on campus? Okay, and how did it feel? I mean, you're hijabi, and obviously you're a female, and you're Bengali.
Yeah.
So how did it feel?
Yeah, I think all are good questions. I think, so when you apply and you study at Oxbridge, it's natural to live on campus, especially if you're outside of Oxford, which I was, so I'm from London. And so it was only natural to move. And to be honest, I do know a few people who are from Oxford and still move to live on campus because the workload is quite demanding and intense, that it's only natural for you to be there on site in college and to be able to commute quite easily because you would have things naturally 5 days of the week. So in terms of how I felt, I think I was part of the COVID generation, so I started university during lockdown.
Don't remind me of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Every single time I think about it, I'm like, wow, obviously we didn't have AI then.
Yeah.
So we're from that generation where we've actually had to write our essays, whereas now it's very different. So wow.
Yeah, I had to write out essays, but I had to also do online university, which was crazy. And so I think joining at such a crazy stage, but then also coming in with, as you say, all these labels, I think initially I didn't let it get to me because I didn't really realise like I was there in person because everything was online. And it was only until my second year that those started to actually come into play. And I think, again, I don't like this term, but imposter syndrome does come into play. And I think it's natural for you to feel like that, but I tried my best not to let it get to me. And with the support of like my faith and family, I was able to get through that.
Yeah, and I mean, you're now here, a job coach, a founder. We'll talk about that in a bit. But obviously, following from what you've said, what other challenges did you face, of course, as a student, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah. I think every year came with its different hurdles and tests and trials. So again, I touched upon my first year. I began during COVID and lockdown. So online schooling was a new thing that I had to get used to. And then in my second year, I sat my first formal examinations called MODS. And
What's that?
Yeah, so historically, they were known as the most difficult exams in Oxford.
Right.
And it's the first exams you take in your second year when you're studying classics.
Right, okay.
So instead of doing your prelims, which candidates normally sit in their first year, I have to wait a year and a half. So the content naturally is much more as well. And I had around 11 papers to sit. 11 papers. And they were all probably around 1 to 3 hours each. So yeah, that in and of itself, academically, my workload increased a lot. And then to make it even harder on myself, third year, I decided I'm going to change course. And so I had to essentially play catch up with my new degree. And it was a joint honours as well.
So when you changed sort of in third year, like to the different subject, did you have to then do the first, second year again? How did that work?
Yeah, so I had to make a deal with my college. So initially, so
we love a deal.
So my tutor initially recommended that I redo from the first year, but I had already spent 2 years in Oxford and I already had my graduation date in mind. My degree classics was 4 years and I decided to switch after 2 years, and so I said, no way, I'm not doing 5 years, I'm going to stick to the 2 years.
You had your outfit planned probably for graduation.
I didn't want to go back to the beginning again, and I did have the support of other tutors as well, and they said for philosophy, go ahead. And then with theology, I just had to speak with the department, and they said that having my background 2 years in classics gave me the good foundation to be able to sit my finals papers. So that's kind of how my journey
You've
continued.
had quite the journey then.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So if you had to describe your journey in, like, let's say 3 words, how would you describe it?
If I had to give you the first word, I would say opportunities.
Okay, fine.
Second word, I would probably say it was unique to me. And then the third word, I would say it would probably be no regrets. I know that's 2 words, but
That's fine.
Looking back, like I think I did everything for a reason. And whilst the course switch was probably the most difficult thing that I did during my journey, it's one of the things I look back at and don't regret, and it was probably the best decision I could have made for myself at the time.
Right, okay. So then following from that, did you then become a job coach? How did that sort of come into play?
Yeah, so I became a job coach as my first full-time permanent job after graduating. And I'm fairly still new to it, but my role is about coaching and mentoring young students, specifically neurodivergent students, and bridging that gap between education to employment. So I'm very passionate about mentoring and bringing out the best in young people, specifically with their identity. So it's about supporting them through one-to-ones, both within an academic setting, but also within the workplace, and helping them make that transition.
So then how is that different from a careers advisor?
It's a good question. A careers advisor would probably advise you on what path to go down, what career to take based on your experience and skills, whereas my role is very specific to the program that I work on and with the students that I work with. So it's about supporting them on their internships and, again, making them comfortable in the workplace. And I think the most fulfilling part of my job is working with students with a neurodivergence, and also having moved from a further education institution to now working within higher education allowed me to appreciate the different routes available for different people, because now I can say I've experienced all the types of schooling, and I can then advise people on their journey, because university isn't for everyone. I went to university, I'm very glad that I did, but it doesn't mean that I would recommend it to everybody I come across. Yeah.
Of course. Now, I think you might have covered this, but then what, I guess, impact would you say you hope to make in their lives, in the young students, I guess?
Yeah. So I think my thing has always been about identity. So bringing out the most authentic and genuine version of yourself without all these labels, without, people's expectations of you. I think I would want them to be able to do whatever they set their hearts to without worrying about what society thinks about them, because it's no coincidence that the biggest CEOs out there are neurodivergent. And so I think the most brilliant minds are usually the ones that have those labels attached to them, because it shows how much work they've had to do to get over that and accept themselves for who they are, for people to also realise their potential.
Amazing. Now, I would ask for a success story, but I think the biggest success story has to be Shajara Pathways. Now, let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah.
What is it that you do for Shajara Pathways? You're a founder.
Yes.
So, I mean, what is it?
Yeah, so I recently established and launched my own initiative called Shajara Pathways, and it's an access and mentoring program designed to support young Muslim students to aspire and apply to consider as well going to Oxford and Cambridge or other top ranked universities in the UK. So it's all about creating that safe space for Muslim students and those as well from first generation, low income state school backgrounds or even ethnic minorities. Because I think that there's a lot more that we can do to kind of bring up those statistics and those figures and have that representation across, you know, the top universities in the world like Oxbridge.
Yeah.
And thank you mentioned that's like, I guess one of the achievements I've made, because based on my background and my family and my story, I wanted to create that space for people like me.
No, definitely. I think touching upon that, I mean, I think my parents have had a big role in what I've done so far. And so I think the right question would be for you is, how big of a role has your parents played in your journey?
I think...
Or your family, rather, actually.
Yeah, I think words won't be able to do it justice. I think the reason, again, like I look back at my time in Oxford, and the reason I started Shajara Pathways is based on a lot of figures in my life. And I think back to my nana, so my mum's dad and my own dad, who were the first from their family to make that sacrifice and move to the UK.
Yeah.
So you're thinking about people who come to a foreign land with absolutely nothing to make something out of it. And I look back at the sacrifice they made for their family, for their future, and I wanted to do something like that and establish something for future generations to come. So I took that from their story to make my own and to be able to impact other people, other young Muslims who want to aspire to be the best version of themselves. For me, that was going to Oxford. And I want to be able to create those opportunities for others. And I always say that my family are the most supportive of everything I do. I mentioned my dad, but my mum as well.
Yeah.
Anything that I set my mind to, they've never said no, and they've always supported me. You mentioned I'm Bengali, I'm a hijabi, I went to Oxford.
But they never let that stop you.
They never let that stop me, and they allowed me to go. And I also have very supportive siblings as well. I have 3 beautiful sisters, and my extended family as well. Like, I think they made Oxford and my time there so much more special with the memories I made, and them even coming to visit me. Something as small as that I never took for granted.
No, I'm trying not to cry. It's just because it kind of reminds me of my sort of journey with my parents.
Yeah.
Like, my parents are flying today from Bangladesh, and it just makes me think, wow, like, it's so nice to have supportive parents.
Yeah.
You know, take you on this journey. Your siblings there, being there for you. University isn't easy, and obviously when you're a female and then you're Bengali on top of that, it's not the easiest thing. So yeah, it's definitely one story to hear. Alhamdulillah, I'm really glad you're on the show today.
Thank you.
But final question would be, if you had to share a message with people who are watching the show today, what would that be? Maybe to your young self.
Yeah, I would say look at me as an example. If you think that, you know, you have a goal that you want to work towards and you think it's impossible, I would say it's completely not. If you have passion and potential, work towards that and place your trust in Allah, because as long as you believe in yourself and you stay true to that and your beliefs, I don't think anything can stop you. Just, you know, be patient, trust the process, and leave everything to Allah. That's all I can say. I kept faith and family really close to me throughout my journey, and I can only advise my younger self and others to do the same.
Yeah.
And I hope to be able to see that difference.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
No
Taslima, I
worries.
really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your
And that
help.
was Taslima Sheikh, of course, giving us the story of her life, and if anything, you know, the beautiful journey from university to now Shajara Pathways, and then, you know, her parents, how they've helped her, and her siblings, and inshallah, I really hope she does so well in her career.